Welcome to the Phase podcast. It's great to be back with you. I'm Kieran. I'm one of your hosts. I'm joined by Molly and James.
Hiya.
Hello, everyone.
It's great to have you in our new podcast series. What we're doing, the 15-minute ideas. And we want to take those big ideas, those big themes, those topics, look at them and understand them. And how can we give you key tools, skills, bits to think about that are going to make a positive difference to your well-being, to your resilience, to your life, all in 15 minutes. More than enough. Molly, why don't you tell us what theme we're thinking about this week?
So this week we are thinking about exams, the dreaded word as we approach exam season. We are thinking about ways to manage exam stress, but also ways to make the most of your study time and how you can do that most efficiently, most productively. That's what we're looking at this week.
Wonderful. Molly, as soon as you brought the theme up for us, what's the first thing that we can be thinking about?
I think something really important to spend a few minutes thinking about who we are, what works for us, what is our strengths, and who we kind of are in all of this. I think it's really important to think about how we can manage our stress, what works well for us, because it'll be different for everybody. It'll be different for me than it is for Kieran and James as well. Everybody is so different. So spending some time thinking about what works well for you, how do you work? And also thinking about that, not only in terms of how you manage stress and what that looks like for you, but also what revision looks like for you. Everyone does that so differently. How can you play to your strengths and make it work for you? I think that's really important to think about before you set out on your studying journey ahead of exam season, thinking about who you are, what works well for you, and how can you utilize your strengths within that to manage and cope and get the most out of it as possible.
That's really good. So I suppose it's that sort of understanding yourself. I like that, playing to your strengths. I guess that's one of the things that, when I talk to young people in school, it's like sometimes they feel like they've been given one way to study and it doesn't quite work for them or sit with them. But maybe it sounds like trying a few things, understand how you learn and what works for you.
Yeah, definitely. I think we all do things so differently, and that's where it's really important to be connected in with other people, because there might be some really good ideas that you think, actually, like that would really work for me. I want to steal that one. There's nothing wrong with stealing other people's techniques, their tips, their tricks. Use them all, because not all of them will work for you. Yep. I really struggle with writing lots of things down, kind of like masses and masses of notes and reading things. That's not really how my brain works, but actually put it into pictures, into mind maps, in kind of creative ways, into colours. Like that's what really works for me. But that doesn't work for everybody. It's just about kind of getting to know that about you and using that stuff.
That's really, really useful. You just made me think about that. Actually, being organised is really important to manage stress. I think it's not just exam times, but anything. If you imagine what it's like when you've got a lot going on and your brain's full, what do you do? Whether it's around creating lists, having a plan, making sure that the space that you're working in is organised, make sure you know what you're doing. Like a simple thing that I've taken on for many years, and actually started when I was a lot younger, is actually planning what I'm doing tomorrow, so that when I get to it, I don't have to waste sort of 30, 40 minutes trying to get my head into gear. But I know what I'm doing. So I think, getting organised, making sure that your study space, whether that's your bedroom or even downstairs on the dining room table or wherever it is, being organised, having a plan to follow, whatever that might look like, I think is really important to be able to manage it. If you're trying to keep it all up in your head, they talk about our executive function, and it's part of our brain that sort of is able to make all those decisions. And we have hundreds and thousands of decisions each day. And when we're managing a lot, we've got a lot going on, if we're forcing or overusing that executive function, it actually stresses us out more. It makes it really difficult to manage. I think getting organised, get yourself planned, get yourself together is really, really key. So we've got what works for us, we've got getting organised. James, what would you encourage somebody to do in this exam season?
Yeah, so Molly spoke about playing to your strengths, and you've just touched on being organised, having a plan, Kieran. And I think fundamentally, a lot of people probably won't be surprised to hear this, something that you've got to do well in order to do those things is to sleep, and getting good sleep is so important. Now, it can be hard to get that across to young people these days. We all know that Netflix likes to autoplay the next episode. It can be hard to put down TikTok at bedtime, all of those things. So before I go into how sleep is really important during revision season, during exam season, I've got two really interesting facts that you might want to tell a young person in your life, or if you're a young person, hear these facts to understand why sleep is so important.
I'm ready for these facts, James.
Are you ready, Kieran? Are you ready, Molly?
Yeah.
I found this one crazy. As humans, we are the only species on the planet that deprive ourselves of sleep. No other species on the planet puts anything ahead of sleep. It's that important. Yeah, we do it
As
all
soon
the
as you
time.
say that, as soon as you say that, I realise I've done that. Sitting on the sofa, one evening and just like eyes shut in. But yeah, I don't get up and just go to bed.
Well, get ready for this next one. So depriving sleep is so bad for you that they have taken it out of the Guinness Book of Records. So there used to be a world record for like the longest amount of time, the most amount of days, weeks, where someone had gone without sleep for a certain amount of time. But they have now taken that out of the Guinness World Record books because it's so bad for people and so dangerous.
No way.
I thought you were going to say it was just because the record kept getting broken by a new parent.
Maybe. So that shows us how sleep is really important, why it's maybe really important. Why is it important when it comes to exam season, to revising? Obviously, when we're revising, we're committing a lot of things to memory, right? And it's literally the gateway for things to get into our long-term memory. Some of you may have heard of this thing called homeostasis. So it's this idea that things are in balance. And the brain...
I was going to say, I've obviously heard of it, James, but if you could explain it for Molly, that would be great.
Oh, okay, great. Oh, Molly, don't worry, I've got you covered. So
Thanks,
it's this idea that everything in our body is in balance, and the brain is obviously in our body, so our brain needs to stay in balance as well. So obviously, while we're awake, we're exposed to so much different information, we're taking on so much learning in school while we're revising. And then we have this other time to keep it in balance while we're asleep, where our brain is actually clearing out the clutter. So while we're sleeping, our brain is committing the important stuff we've learned to long-term memory and actually gets rid of some of the stuff that we've learned that it sees as not important. So it's this balance that while we're awake, we're obviously doing our revision, we're playing to our strengths, we're planning, we're scheduling, we're being organised, and we're learning all this stuff. But we need to sleep in order to commit that to our memory and also clear out some of the stuff that we've maybe learned that we don't need, so that there's space for the next day for us to take on more important information and to be ready for more learning. So sleep is so important for getting that stuff that you're revising into your memory, ready for it when the exam actually comes around.
Now, not to encourage people to procrastinate, but there is a really excellent TED Talk by Matt Walker, who's a sleep scientist. And the premise for it, he talks about sleep being our superpower. So it's well worth watching that for all of us. I think I definitely know as an adult, I've got younger children, often tell them how important it is for them to have sleep. But sometimes I forget that myself. That's a great tip. Thanks, James. Molly, what's next on your list now if you're giving somebody the top tips?
The next on my list kind of links a little bit to what you were saying, Kieran, about being organised, having a plan. Something I really like to do is to see my plan, to see the kind of long-term stuff. I normally try and put up a monthly calendar on my wall. Used to have it on my wardrobe doors when I was studying. And it would have the end date, the last exam that I had on that kind of calendar. And each day after my revision finished, before I went to bed, I would put a massive big cross over the day, being like, I've done that one. And actually that really helped me to be, I'm one step closer. But like, it's nearly done. I've worked hard today. The end is in sight. And I think that's really good to actually realise sometimes it can feel really overwhelming, it can feel really big, and it might not feel like we're able to kind of manage it or do it, but kind of break that down. Can I manage and can I do today? Actually, yeah, I can do today. I've got to do these 2 topics and I can do that. And I think, it just really helped me break that down into smaller steps and also to just see the progress. And every night I just feel a little bit proud of myself that I got through the day.
That's really good. It's that sense. I like that, making it visual. We're as humans, we're so driven by visuals. Why would we not do that for ourselves? That as part of that, getting organised and coming to your visuals, I just want to add to make sure that we don't just spend all our time trying to get organised to not actually doing anything, but making sure that we are being proactive and we're moving forward. Because actually some people might be feeling like, I'm listening to this now and I haven't started revising, so what do I do? So one of the things I always encourage young people to do is around learning to say no, especially as time gets closer to exam times. How do we just protect our time? How do we make sure that, I don't know about you, but when I've got something really big and looming, scary, I'll try and find anything else to do instead of that. And so sometimes sometimes I just need to say no. But I like the idea, Molly, because if you know when the end is in sight, you know when things are going to change, you know when that you'll be getting time back, and you know when that'll be coming up.
What I didn't say about my incredible timetable that I made was that it took me ages to make it because I wanted it to be perfect with my pretty pens and my highlighters, which is another thing that I think being really aware of, actually spending all of that time. It comes back to what you're talking about, balancing preparation and thinking about doing something with the actual doing it. So as much as the timetable was great, it probably could have taken me half the time with just a normal pen, but I wanted to make it look really pretty. So something also to be really aware of if you're like me and get very excited by stationery.
It's good, but again, that comes to knowing ourselves, doesn't it? We've got to manage that.
Just coming off the back of what you two have both said about having a plan and also having that balance, being able to say no. I would say in all the balance and the planning, there has to be like little moments of joy. So like Molly, you said, having that day at the end, that sort of massive checkpoint at the end where you get to the summer holidays, you get past that last exam, and that's going to be a huge celebration. And Kieran, you also said about saying no, not just saying yes to every time a friend wants to go out, as a way of procrastinating and making sure you don't revise. There's actually somewhere in the middle of that, of like, once you actually have a plan and you can see, right, this is how much I've got to revise, you will find that maybe exams and revision aren't quite as big and overwhelming as you thought they would be. And so there will be some time in your calendar, in your plan, to actually have times of doing stuff that you want to do, that you enjoy, that brings you joy. And I think that's really important, to be really intentional and careful with that time. And to say no to stuff that's silly and you don't need to do and that is just procrastinating, but to say yes to those things that bring you joy. There's actually evidence, there's been a lot of studies on this, that people that are experiencing positive emotions actually have better brain function, are able to focus for longer, are able to problem solve better. And so making sure that in your revision plan, with all of your time that you need to do English, maths, history, whatever it is, that there's a time in between all that. And not a large amount of time. Again, obviously you do have to do your work and work hard. Just enough time to bring some of that stuff to look forward to bring you joy and excitement and maybe connection with friends. Just to look after your brain and keep it ticking over and make sure it's at its best and optimized to learn and to face those exams.
Yeah, that's really key, isn't it? Because you've got to have, as you were talking about that end inside, Molly, you've got to have those way moments, those way markers. It's like if someone's ever done like a big run or something, there's a hydration station every so often that it actually enables you to go further, doesn't it? And so I think, yeah, you're right. Getting that balance of time is really important.
Yeah, I think that hydration and nutrition analogy is really, really good. It's like if you're like in Molly's example where she had that calendar, if you're literally just trying to run constantly in this metaphor analogy, running is doing revision until you get to the end point, you're going to fall short. Like you're going to get burnt out. Actually just making sure that you're staying hydrated, topped up with moments of joy and stuff that you like look forward to or share with friends and family.
Yeah, that is great. Now we've got just under 3 minutes left in our 15-minute ideas. Like I say, it's a lot to get through. Molly, what would be one that you'd want to share with us?
Last little tip would be brain dumping. So just before you sit down to do your work, to do your revision, whatever it might be, just spending a few minutes to get a pen and a pad, or the notes on your phone, or however you want to do it, and just writing down literally everything that's in your brain, whether that's things you need to remember to do, maybe that's things to do with family or friends, things that might be bothering you, things that you need to get done later in the day, or just things you need to remember, things that you're just floating around your brain, and putting that aside, putting it down on paper helps just free up some of that brain space to be able to focus a lot better. It's something I find really useful, not just with studying, but just general when I need to get things done in any kind of capacity. So yeah, brain dumping would be my final tip for today's podcast.
That's a really good one. I think also with the brain dumping is it creates space literally in your head.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
you can work out what's going on. Probably just to add to your point, I'd say get some post-it notes. They're so useful. I'm sure anyone that's doing revision has got post-it notes. How about you, James? What's your final tip for people?
My final tip is write down your goals. So actually, have you written down on paper and almost like had that conversation with yourself of like, what do I actually want to achieve? What does success look like? Because I think we've spoken about how exam season brings a lot of pressure and stress. And I think actually writing down what your expectations are, as long as you're being realistic, could actually take away some of that anxiety and pressure of being like, this is what I want to achieve. Am I capable of that? Yes. And so having that goal in sight, I think actually just again, getting that stuff out of your brain and onto paper of like, okay, I know what I'm aiming for. But also having that why. So why do you want to do that? Maybe there's an apprenticeship you want to do, and if you get a 4 in English, math, science, you can get to do the apprenticeship you want to do. And that might be a really strong why for you to keep motivating you when things get tough. Or maybe you want to go and be a doctor, and so you need to get an 8 or a 9 in science. But again, so having that why, making sure they're realistic. So it's setting a healthy pressure and not something that's just going to weigh you down and be, unreachable, unattainable.
That's great. Yeah, no, having that absolute goal and vision. My final thing that I'd say to people is really important. It is actually ask for help. You're not an island. You're not on your own. There's people around you that, we've got your best intentions and we want to support you through that, but ask for help, whether it's help in how to revise, what to revise, subject matter, speak to those teachers. Sometimes it can be scary, but they want to support you. Ask for help from those, parents, carers, youth workers, from Phase, we want to care. Even peers, sometimes it's just, in that encouragement, be around each other, ask for help. I always say to people, be proactive about that. Don't let things fester or slide or anything. Be proactive and ask for help. Wow. Well, people, we made it 15 minutes, some fantastic ideas. What I've got down is, we talked about what works for you. So in yourself, about getting organized, getting good sleep, making it visual, what's needed and knowing that the end is in sight, setting those goals, brain dumping and asking for help. So I think that was a fantastic list, people.
Yeah, it was brilliant. I think also just your grades aren't everything. You are a whole person with passions and strengths in other places as well, and qualities and a work ethic and all of that other stuff as well. So don't forget to remember that bit.
Thanks, Wallace. That is so important. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I was just going to echo what Molly said. I think we've got a really good list there. Yeah, I think your grades don't define you. Obviously, it's really important to try work really hard and you want to do well, but it's not going to be the end if you don't get the exam results you wanted. There's other stuff you can do, and actually, it might be a great opportunity for you to grow and learn from that and bounce back even stronger.
Absolutely important. We hope that you achieve those grades. We hope you get what you've worked for and what you've put all that effort in for. But if it doesn't go to plan, there is still hope. There are still ways forward. There's many steps on the journey. If something doesn't go to plan, please do get in contact with us. We'd love to talk to you. That's been our 15-minute ideas. I want to say thank you very much, Molly, for your thoughts.
Thank you.
James, been great to have yours too. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Guys, don't forget to like and subscribe to our podcast, to give it a 5-star review and to share it. But also, as we're doing these 15-minute ideas, we would love to know your questions, the topics you would like us to discuss. And we'll look forward to seeing you or listening to you or you listen to us on the next podcast. Bye-bye.
See you next time.
See you next time.